Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion action, a new hire controller. This is Superintendent, is you?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, I respectfully request the reinstatement of the controller's position in the finance office. As my memo states, the controller oversees accounting activities and ensures that ledgers accurately reflect money coming in and out of the district. The staff in the accounts payable, accounting, payroll, and accounts receivable all communicated to the assistant superintendent, the director of human resources, and myself. They really need a daily point person to work with them, to help them, support them, answer their questions. So these are the departments that the controller will oversee, as well as supporting Mr. McGrath as the director of finance. And this position has always been part of the finance department and the Warwick School Department. This is a non-funded,
Unbudgeted expense, right?
Yeah, unbudgeted.
Okay.
Move
Okay.
approval.
Second, any discussion from the?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Gallagher.
Certainly the justification in the memo that came before us is completely understandable. The explanation that you just provided, very much understood. However, after an hour and a half of time with Mr. McGrath yesterday, I still have anxiety from sitting there and discussing numbers with him. And to have an unbudgeted expense at this point in the year, especially when we have a couple line items that are over budget, and the position not 100% support the educational needs of the kids in the classroom, I'm not going to be able to support this evening. Not saying that I wouldn't support it in the future, but it's an unbudgeted expense, year-end, couple line items over budget. We've been very lucky we don't have snow. And the line items that were over on budget are nobody's fault. We had a couple of freak incidents with the roof here at Vets, the sewer issue, so people having to work overtime. I'm not going to be able to support this evening. Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee? Okay, I'll speak. I would disagree with Mr. Gallagher, and for the following reasons. First of all, you will never encounter a term on a school committee and not come up with an unbudgeted expense. These things happen. Second, not filling this position now, and Mr. McGrath is going to be leaving in June. When we posted this position, when you took over your current position, we had less than competent applicants. So the concern should be, and I would take issue with the fact that it doesn't impact student learning, because if you don't pay your bills and vendors shut you off and they don't ship you, it impacts student learning. And I would say that to roll the dice, and we're going to have to replace a finance director, and those positions are as rare as hen's teeth in the educational world. And then knowing the history we had trying to fill this, we could very well end up with a rudderless finance department. And you want to talk about a disaster, I'll spell that with a capital D. I think the position is needed because I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle to find somebody, and I think you should be in on that hiring process so we can at least have one person in place as we search for your replacement. So I think by not doing this, I don't think we're demonstrating any fiscal prudence or anything like that by not filling what I think is a necessary position. We've always had a controller in that department. You need a controller in the department. It's a $170-some-odd million budget. There's a lot of expenditures that go through it. So I will support it, but I just think it's pretty dangerous when knowing what the landscape is like for those positions. There's a lot of people with MBAs out there, but they may not necessarily have any municipal budgeting experience, and particularly educational budgeting experience, and that's a horse of a different color. So, any other comments?
I just have a question.
Ms. Hazelwood?
Sure. When was the last time we had a controller?
Mr.
2
McGrath?
years ago?
Mr. McGrath was the last controller. He just left as
So you were the
controller.
last controller,
Yes.
and we didn't fill it for 2 years?
Yes, we were unable to fill it, so we adjusted some wise union positions to fill in the gaps, leaving me to just be the one head of the department. So in my departure, filling that position would help to make sure there's a bench, so the situation.
It is, it's a necessary, but I'm with Mr. Galligan on that at this point in the year, and we're coming to, budget season, and we don't know, I have no idea what's ahead. It's hard for me to approve a position without even knowing what we're gonna have to do yet. It's at this point in the year.
Well,
Because
I
it
think
doesn't directly affect the children.
Well, you're going to be asked to do that very same thing very shortly. Ms. Backus, do you have something?
Yes, Mr. Testa, I completely concur with you. I believe that we can look through the budget and find areas where we haven't spent as much and plug that money in. I think this is a crucial position, especially given that Mr. McGrath is leaving. We used to, as we've said, we used to have a controller and the finance director. This will hurt kids in the long run. I'm going to tell you right now.
Go ahead. When she finishes, I too.
In my experience, the past 10 years, there are less and less people out there that do this kind of work that are certified. And this is a very dangerous position, as Mr. Testa noted. It's a very dangerous position to be in. If we can find somebody, we'll be lucky. And then trying to find a new finance director is going to be very difficult because there aren't a lot of certified finance people out there. Thank you.
Mr. Galligan, you had something else?
Yes, I respect the opinions of both of my colleagues that have spoken. First, we're hiring a controller. We're not hiring a municipal CFO for a school department like Mr. McGrath, who's a dime a dozen. We're hiring a controller as outlined within the memo of what they will oversee. Secondly, tonight we just discussed NIS and the reorganization. That's another head. We said budget neutral, but there is an increase. It's minimal, but it's an increase.
Then state for the record what the increase is.
Believe
About
it was-
$211, I believe.
Correct, but there are instances where we've been short a couple $100 in some areas of the school department, so it's an increase. We have 3 unbudgeted positions as the next agenda item that we're going to be discussing. I hear you that we would want some continuity following behind Mr. McGrath.
Yes.
However, our job, based on our role here, is to not be focusing on the continuity and what training is provided within that department and coverage, et cetera. Our job is to be focusing on providing the children a good education. I don't see how there's a correlation between the controller position, which has been vacant thus far, can correlate to children that would require a one-to-one intervention within the classroom, speech pathologists, et cetera. So with that, I hear your opinion. I respect your opinion. I'm not saying no to the position. I'm saying when Ms. Ruggieri gives us the list of headcount requests increases for the next fiscal year, that should be made one of the priorities coming out of the admin office. But at today, March 16th, for me, it's not a priority today. Thank you.
Ms. Hazelwood?
He covered everything, I believe. That's okay, sir. Thank you.
Again, I would just chime in. Mr. Galligan, I think if I heard you correctly, I think when you talked about the control position, you talked about directors of finance. I don't think you said they were a dime a dozen, because they're not. So, Mr. McGrath's position,
Yes.
finance directors for school departments are not a dime a dozen. Just call any other school committee member.
Diamond in the rough, excuse me.
Okay, diamond in the rough. That's, all right, that's a little
That's
different.
better.
Correct, diamond in the rough.
And so I think, and I truly believe this, we consider everything that goes on in the school department is student-centered. Everything. So you're going to try to delineate a direct impact that you need a special ed teacher. For years and years and years, anytime the special ed department came, they needed special ed teachers. That's based on student need. You can't project student need over a 180-day school year. So you're always going to have these issues. We had them when Dr. Connolly was here. We've had other unbudgeted things too. Plus, this would be this would be a prorated position. If you're able to fill it, you're going to be filling it for a month or two, right? And then you're going to bake it into your budget. So if the suggestion is, let's wait and we'll put it into the next budget, are you prepared to say even though you support it, are you going to be prepared to say on the next budget, nope, we're not going to have one? So I think you need one because you cannot have a rudderless, Mr. McGrath, I'll ask you your opinion. I mean, you're going to leave whenever you're leaving in June, right? And if there is nobody in charge of the finance department, that will affect student learning. It's going to affect students, it's going to affect staff, it's going to affect staff up and down the chain. So I don't, I understand and how it sounds about, it doesn't impact students. I would just materially disagree with that. So, we had a controller in that department for years, for forever. For as long as we had a director of finance, we had a controller, right? So what we did when you assumed the position and we couldn't fill it, we tried to just plug people in, to just try to keep the wheels turning. And it didn't really work very well because there's a lot of work going on in your department, okay? And when you want to work them like rented mules, okay, you're not going to get a good result. So you have to have a good functioning finance department. And so, there's no need to reinvent wheels here, but I think we're playing a dangerous game. So if there's no other comment, I'll just call the vote. Ms. Backus?
Yep. Mr. McGrath, how much does usually a controller, what's that salary?
Anywhere between 90 to 100 seems to be the going rate.
Okay, so we're talking about probably all in 120, 125?
Correct.
Okay. We have money in line item 51135, which is retroactive salary prior years. We have money in AM/PM supervision. That's 51324. We have approximately 30,000 in there, 50,000 in the other. We have in 51401
Money.
stipends, we have about $75,000. In 51404, we have so far about 100,000.
Ms.
So-
Backus, I see where you're going with that.
I'm just
I
saying,
do.
I mean, I just went through the budget, the staffing, quickly, and I'm pulling money out of there.
Right, so I think,
And there are no encumbrances on that money.
Right, and we still have another, how many more months, what month is this, March? So we've got 3 more months. The
And to
budget-
your point, Mr. Testa, it's a prorated salary, so you would be looking to put that salary in next fiscal year budget at the full cost, but by the time this person gets hired, we're probably into May, June at that point. So you're probably looking at the cost of $15,000
Right,
to
exactly.
have
And
more
the-
continuity in that office.
And the budget will change between now and then, too. Some of the items that we're showing deficits on now, like some Medicaid reimbursements, right? So there's 2 pieces to that, right? It's the submission and then the receipt. So, and that traditionally doesn't come in smoothly, it comes in late. So, again, of course we're worried about a budget, but I'm more worried about the district being able to pay, because there's a lot of encumbrances that come at the end of the fiscal year. So, once you start having bills pile up and not getting paid, okay, it sets off a whole other can of worms that I don't think the district needs. So, okay. Ms. Kirby-Chapman?
So we're basically trying to fill 2 positions right now.
Well, we haven't posted for the director of finance, but we will.
But we're worried about a position that we want to add before we even worry about his position.
No, we're worrying about them both, but I think it's going to be it's going to be more work to fill a director of finance than a controller. But at the end of the day, my opinion, we need both positions,
Couldn't find a controller.
right? So we haven't had a controller, you can post that right now. In order for us to post the finance director's job, the employee has to submit the resignation first. So now that he's done that and we've accepted it, now we can post for his job as well. So either way, both jobs are going to be prorated for whenever they are hired, if they're hired to the end of the year. So it's a prorated position The salary for Mr. McGrath's job is already budgeted. So it's, what we're really talking about is a new controller position and a prorated budget for that. And again, I will reiterate, I have very, very big concerns about not having your top two leadership positions staffed in a finance department that manages $175 million. So,
And do you feel like you have been short-sighted by not having a controller?
It's definitely a necessary position. In the case of, and you're seeing this case with me leaving, without having someone behind is definitely an issue. The positions are hard to fill. We did what we had to do to try and keep the wheels on, but in going forward with the amount of knowledge I'm leaving with, I think it will take two people to fill my shoes. And it's necessary to have the backup. There was a lot of feedback. Ms. Danbrook met with all the staff, and they all were supporting of having the controller position return. So there's those pieces as well.
Mr. Chair?
Superintendent.
Currently, Assistant Superintendent McCaffrey is overseeing these departments. He has a lot on his plate, and he cannot dedicate the time that they need and the guidance that they need, even though he has a strong business background. He cannot provide them with the assistance and what they need. I just don't want them, I don't want to lose them. I mean, they're valuable employees, they're knowledgeable employees, but they're feeling very frustrated. You know, Mr. McGrath Director of Finance, works very, very hard, but he just doesn't have the time to help support them on a daily basis.
Thank you. And I'd also add, a controller in a school department is a very common position. We're not the WPA. Right? We're not trying to just make jobs for people. These are positions that if you go to any similarly sized district, go to Pawtucket, go to Cranston, you're going to find either a business director, director of finance, whatever you want to call it, and there'll be a controller or a functioning position like a controller. So, you know, I think it's fiscal 101, fiscal management 101 to have that. So,
Can I ask Superintendent a question?
certainly.
Have you started the search for a new director of finance?
No, I just said that.
Good.
Yeah. So as soon as Mr. McGrath put his letter in for tonight, so now we can post it for tomorrow.
Okay.
But we have to wait for that letter of resignation.
Great.
And so it will be posted tomorrow.
Okay. So it sounds like the administration's taken steps to get that position backfilled. Hopefully it's not a long, arduous task. Again, I just want to state for the record, not against the controller position. Just.
All right, any other comments? All right, I'm going to call a vote. All in favor of discussion action for a new hire controller? Aye. Or you want to call an individual, and I'll call an individual roll. Ms. Backus?
Aye.
Ms. Hazelwood?
Nay.
Ms. Kirby-Chapman?
I'm so torn.
This is crucial.
It's a month, 1 month.
I think I'm going with aye.
Nay.
Aye. So motion carries 3-2.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Next item, discussion action, additional FTE requests for Welk, Mr. Allenbach.
Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, on behalf of the Special Education Department, we are requesting 3 new positions. The first being a one-to-one teaching assistant to support a student with medical needs. The second being a speech-language pathologist, and the third being a special educator. These positions are not in the existing budget and must be added to meet the growing special education needs of the district. Happy to answer any questions.
Move approval.
Second, any questions from the committee?
These are all critical positions as well and need to be filled. They work directly with children, and Welk is understaffed as it is.
As are many schools that need special educators.
I don't disagree, Ms.
Mm-hmm.
Don't disagree.
Mr. You want to speak?
Yeah,
Mr.
just
Gallagher? Yep,
a comment.
please.
Just want to say, great job getting this before us, to you and your co-director and Jen Evans, and, you know, these are vital, totally support it. So, great work by you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Allenbach, do you anticipate a struggle finding a speech pathologist?
I hope not.
Okay. I don't know. I know some of the specialties are hard to fill. And, you know, I just don't know, you know, it can be frustrating trying to find talent. So,
Correct.
okay. Okay, any other comments? Okay. All in favor of additional FTEs for Welk? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion action contract award, Rexel open purchase order for the electricity program's consumable supplies funded through categorical funds. Mr. Kane.
Good evening, members of the school committee. I'm requesting an open incumbent purchase in the amount of $9,426 through Rexel for the electricity program's consumable supplies.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is you again, Mr. Kane. Apple Inc., Career Tech Center, purchase of 2 Mac Studio Apple M1 Macs.
Yep, so I'm looking for, I was here last time talking about Studio 107 for Mac purchases. These are 2 very high-powered units that do a lot of the higher-end stuff in there. So it's going to come out to about $6,354. Once again, it's at no cost to the district. All this is done through Perkins and categorical funding. I think by the end of this year, every single program at the Career Center will have a brand-new computer lab at the conclusion. And I'll say this, I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but just so you understand how Perkins and categorical works, somewhere around summer, you get to apply. I apply the second I get the opportunity. I usually get approval for Perkins. It's usually somewhere in the amount of $200-something thousand right out of the gate. You get that done. I usually say, Tim, this is Tim. Here are the codes. He approves it. He gets them loaded in lightning fast. What's going to happen in about November is there's going to be state categorical funding. Same process happens. I have to call Mr. McGrath. Tim, this is Tim. I need these accounts loaded. It's no small feat because I do the application to see the amount of accounts he's loading into a budget. Then recently they announced we have more Perkins funds, which is all good news for the district. Another, $60,000, let's say. We have to have all those items in by June. That includes coming to you. So when we talk about, I know how stressed he's been. I know the tough job he has, and I know Mr. McCaffrey's filling in now. It definitely does affect student learning, because what winds up happening is if I have money for a $50,000 welding pack and I can't get that process through, it's a problem, and it's a struggle right now just on the time frames, especially with the second round of Perkins. So I just want to frame what it looks like, and that's just one aspect of what he's doing for the Career Center. So I thank you, and good luck as well.
Thank you, Mr. Graff. Motion to
Thank you,
approve.
Mr. Kane. Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Kane, did you say these are for 107? These Macs, or no?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. And I just want to comment, I judged capstone projects yesterday, and there was a student who presented to us, and I've been doing those for 10 years. It's one of the best I've ever seen. He is in chorus chorale, and he used the chorus pathway and the 107 pathway, joined 107 as a junior, and he put them together in his senior project with the common learning stretches and everything else. It was, again, it was one of the best presentations I've ever seen, and he called out 107 and how it broadened his horizons. He was a singer, mostly, but how it allowed him to go into music deeper. It's a fabulous program. I'm just glad that we can support it. Okay.
And I had a student do the same thing yesterday in capstone. It was fantastic.
Yep. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, number 11, contract award, Global Spectrum for June 12, 2024 graduation services at URI. Mr. McCaffrey.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee. I'm requesting your approval for the graduation ceremony to be held at the University of Rhode Island next year. The cost is similar to what we're paying now for the Aldridge Mansion. The only difference is we don't have to worry about rain. We don't have to worry about traffic within the city or limiting people attending the event. We want everyone to attend graduations, the celebrations of success. We shouldn't be limiting parents, grandparents based upon the number of cars we can fit on the property at the Aldridge Mansion. It's something we did during COVID. It helped us have graduations for students and celebrate their success based on the feedback from parents, from principals, from social arts coordinators. Would like to host the event next year at the Ryan Center at the University of Rhode Island. I'm asking for this approval in advance because the dates book up. It's something that we have limited venues that can handle the crowds that we have, and I'm asking for your support this evening.
Move approval.
Any discussion? Mr. McCaffrey, I fully support this. North Kingstown uses the Ryan Center. And I suppose you could say downtown Providence, where do you go? P-PAC, vets, go downtown, you gotta pay to park, right? And it's not easy to get around there. Ryan Center offers you unlimited seating. It offers you free parking. It's a ride, but it is what it is, right? If there was anything closer and that would work, we would have done it, so.
It's Rhode Island.
Yep.
It's not that, it's far.
All in,
It's not that far.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Next item, discussion action, contract award, Cardio Partners, emergency approval of five AEDs for the district. Mr. McCaffrey.
Based on a review of our AEDs throughout the district by our safety officer, Mr. Magiacomo, we needed to replace 5 AEDs. I asked for emergency approval. It was granted by the chair. I'm asking for your approval this evening.
Move approval.
Any discussion?
Yes, AEDs save people's lives. They're the first line for cardiac incidents, and I strongly recommend that we pass this.
Just a question, I mean, I'm all for it as well, but where are we placing these?
I can provide you with that list tomorrow.
You don't have
I don't
to
have
if
that
you
with
don't
me
have
this
to, but
evening.
I'm sorry,
But
I
I
didn't
can
mean to put you on the spot.
definitely provide you with that
I
material.
was just curious,
Okay.
It's like near football fields and things like that.
Main offices, football
We should have
fields,
one in every
things
school,
of that
right?
Yeah.
nature.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Every
McCaffrey.
school should have one, they should have.
These aren't the
order.
only 5 we have in the district, are they?
No, it's not, but
No, okay.
They have
we
some.
need to update 5 of them.
Right, so
Because they
is
get,
there,
yeah.
so, you know, I know it was on budget and you found it out, so is there a lifespan to these? Is that what typically happens?
Yes,
They-
there's a lifespan to the units.
So do we use technology, you know, our existing technology, say it's bought on such and such a date, so it trigger us, you know, so we
So
don't,
it's much like changing a filter in an air conditioning unit. You put a
Right.
date on it, and you look at it,
Okay.
review the date, and you have to replace it
gotcha.
when that expiration comes up.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Mr.
Dr.
Chair,
Cecil, yeah.
I also want to mention that we applied for a grant to get 35 AEDs through Firehouse Subs.
Can always
So-
depend on you for that.
We didn't get it the last time. They turned us down the last time, so we're hoping this time it goes through. We put it in January, and we should be hearing any day now whether or not
You're
we
worth
get
your weight
that.
in gold, Dr. Cecil, you really are.
Okay, I'll just call the vote. All in favor of Cardio Partners emergency approval? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion action, contract award. Wally Computer, cloud-based virtual desktop environment for our technology departments at the high school. Mr. McCaffrey. Or Dr. Taylor, one of you.
Good evening, members of the school committee. This is the virtual environment for the CAD programs at both high schools. It's something necessary to support the curriculum that's being used within those programs, and I ask for your support this evening. And it's a budgeted expense.
Move approval.
Second, any discussion? Mr. McCaffrey, I do have a question, and maybe it might be better for Dr. Taylor. I know, so we're changing this whole thing, right? This is going to a cloud-based environment, right? Based on what the paperwork was you gave us. Okay. And I know we're going to fund this the first year out of ESSER. And it's $57,500. And that's for, is that for 1 year? So is this going to be an annual expense for us? Or is it?
Yes, that's correct. So this is actually year 2. Year 1 of this was
Okay.
last year.
Okay.
The CAD labs failed at both of the high schools over a year ago, and the solution to bring them back up rather than equipment again was a cloud solution and a subscription model, which was a little bit more cost effective and updatable. And so this is the year 2 renewal of what's been working for 1 year.
Okay, and we involve Ritzy in this too, right? So
Correct.
does that drive a cost down?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, as you know, with our purchasing policies, we either go out to bid or we belong to a consortium, and RISD is the consortium that ensures that we're getting competitive bidding on this item.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next item, number 14, contract award D. Larson and Sons freezers at Vets and Windman. Mr. McCaffrey.
Move approval.
Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, we had emergency repairs to our units at Women and Warwick Veterans, necessary to support our food service program. Ask your approval this evening.
Okay, did Mr. Backus, can you move it again, please?
Pardon me?
Just move for approval again?
Move approval again.
A second? Second, Mr. Galligan. Mr. McCaffrey, just a quick question. When it comes time to replace these freezers, maybe this is for Mr. McGrath too, does this come out of the lunch? If we had to replace a freezer, say 3 years from now, 5 years from now, does that come out of the lunch fund?
If the funds are available in the lunch fund, yes. In previous times, the lunch fund was always running a deficit, so sometimes it would come from the capital budget. Currently, there are a lot of grants that have been deposited into the lunch fund, so there are funds available there. So, yeah, any big replacements usually come out of that fund.
Okay,
Bride oversees it. There's a lot of paperwork involved in it, but yes.
got it. Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion action contract award Demco Inc. Furniture for Norwood Schools funded with the Innovative Classrooms Grants. Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee. As we mentioned last month, when you approved the technology portions of the innovation spaces, we had tabled the furniture portion, and this is the first of that portion. This specific line item will be similar to a future line item coming at you momentarily, but this is for Norwood School. They were looking for some of their solutions to be purchased from Demco, which again is part of a consortium, so we ensured best bidding practice was adhered to on that. So we would ask favorable approval. And,
Move approval.
Any discussion? I have nothing to say. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Dr. Taylor, you again. Contract award Warwick Computer Student Chromebook purchases.
Number 16,
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 16, Aptigee, annual renewal of the Aptigee subscription.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this item is the yearly renewal, year 2 of a 3-year contract of the Aptigee platform. That is our website and our ThrillShare communication platform that does our calling, our emailing, our text messaging, push notifications, the app. It's the communication platform. Last year was year 1. We signed a 3-year contract, so this is a request for year 2.
Move approval.
Second. Any discussion? Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Dr. Taylor and Superintendent, when I'm pleased with the whole social media, this whole platform and the social media aspect of it. I think we could always use it better, and I think we're getting better at it, so that's cool. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item. Dr. Taylor, you again. Wally Computer Student Chromebook purchases.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So each year we come before you at this time. This is a budgeted expense to the ESSER budget. Although a large expense, it's, as I said, it's budgeted, and that's to procure the Chromebooks for next year's students. We request the purchase now after the great Chromebook debacle of a few years ago, waiting a number of months to get Chromebooks. By ordering them now, they'll come in the next few months. Our technicians will be able to ready those for the students and issue them. Goal is always to provide the students leaving for summer the new device so they could do their schoolwork on and their summer assignments. So I would respectfully ask approval on this item.
Move approval.
Second. Any discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, Leah?
I know we got a bunch of Chromebooks last year. Who were those allocated to?
Absolutely. Great question. So what we do is we got ourselves a few years ago on a cyclical cycle. So we never had to do the whole district at a time. So all students in grades 1, 5, and 9 get issued a new Chromebook that lasts for 4 years, 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and then 9 through 12. And so this is year 3 or 4 of that process. After 4 years, the Chromebooks are end of life. They don't accept updates anymore. They've been through the ringer. We do take those Chromebooks and salvage anything we can for parts to help fix Chromebooks that need to be fixed. So we don't just e-waste the whole device. But this purchase will go to exactly those grades 1, 5, and 9, so they have these for the next 4 years.
Yep, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
No other discussion? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Dr. Taylor. Contract award WB Mason for schools chosen for the Innovative Spaces Grant.
Thank you. And item 18 is that item I promised was coming at you momentarily. That is in relation to the furniture. The other schools, is, in addition to Norwood, but the other schools for the Innovation Spaces Grant went with WB Mason. Again, part of a consortium, competitive pricing, bidding, and this would round off the purchases for furniture for those Innovation Spaces grants.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question.
Ms. Hazelwood?
I've heard that WB Mason is very expensive on their furniture as opposed to Demco. Can you tell me why we would go with the more expensive?
Absolutely, yes. So, schools, well, before we answer that question, schools were able to choose from a variety of different sources they wanted. WB Mason, what we found for a number of items, not every item one-to-one, but for a number of items, we're looking at durability. Certainly everything needs to meet the highest fire code ratings for furniture, especially anything to do with cloth. WB Mason meets all of those requirements.
Okay.
So that's been a kind of a favored product for, at least what these schools are purchasing. But
Yep.
what we did is those plans came in, kind of scrutinized the plan as a team of ourselves to see if there were options to go to Demco. Also, other options we've done is pull things off of WB or any, and go to Amazon for a few items to try to make sure we're always getting the best pricing. Because if I can save a little bit, a lot of places, we can buy more stuff.
So Norwood went with Demco. Is that my understanding?
Norwood has a combination of Demco and WB, I believe.
And anybody else could have gone with Demco as well? Any other school?
Absolutely. If the items that they were looking for were something that Demco did probably better than WB, they would have shopped there as well.
Okay. All right. That's because I'm hearing that some schools did not get that option. They were told they had to go with WB Mason.
No, not at all. So what we did is we, when schools were in the design phase process and looking for a solution or a design to be drafted for their room, we shared the contact information for WB to help them with that design. But when those items came in, that's when we did the comparison to see if we could do better elsewhere for items. Schools did that themselves as well.
So if a school, people at the school come back and say, this is what I actually proposed, but this is what I'm actually getting, what can they do with that? Because I want to make sure I know it's grant money, but it's money that we are fiscally responsible for, regardless of where it comes from. If we can get more, and just as good, because I can't believe Norwood wouldn't, with Sabrina being nominated as Principal of the Year, right? So I would think she did her due diligence before she went ahead and approved that. Is if there are other schools that are saying they could get comparable materials through Demco, will they have that option?
I would say absolutely. There was no school that that I'm aware of that wanted to go with anything from Demco but settled for WB. It was all the schools that worked with WB and selected their items from WB, and from there, other schools from there, like Norwood, shopped Demco. So it was the other direction. Yeah, it wasn't. We didn't take a Demco and push a WB. all the schools gave WB, and this school gave Demco and WB as a mix.
Okay.
Mr. Testa,
Ms. Backus?
you all set?
I am. I may say more after you, but go
Um,
ahead.
Dr. Taylor, we also shop sometimes at Amazon for things as well, right?
Can you say that again? I didn't hear
We
you.
also shop at Amazon at times for things when we can find suitable materials and items.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So an example of let's say if either WB or Demco wanted a bookshelf that could be found on Amazon for a few $100s less, we noticed the same thing with whiteboards, Lego boards, manipulatives. We tried to shop, many different vendors to get the best pricing. There's a lot of work that was put into this.
Thank you.
And also, I was just reminded too, Oakland Beach, I believe, went with some Demco stuff as well.
They are going to get Demco?
I
Oakland
saw-
Beach?
Yeah,
Is that right? I think they would prefer to get Demco, actually.
and it's not all or nothing. There's things that WB is just WB stuff and Demco is Demco stuff, and it's really, for this grant process, we really tried to work with the schools, the principals, the
I know
design teams.
I know it's all going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
I know that, and
We're
I'm
just
going to
meeting-
be super proud when it all comes out. I really am. But I just want the schools to get as closely to what they have asked for, in the budget they have asked for.
And that's what I feel like exactly what we're doing is they've asked for WB, and we're here before you respecting their wish for WB, not trying to undersell something less expensive. So we're trying to meet whatever they asked for.
So they will be able to get what they asked for? If
if-
it's Demco, if that's what they wanted, they'd be able to get that?
I would say if somebody has a budget of, let's say, 20,000 in WB and they want half of that then of course, there's no benefit to the district to force somebody to spend more money if they want something
Right.
different. It's just important they get what their design team wanted. That's in the spirit of what they were looking for.
Okay.
We actually, and Dr. Cecil reminded me too, in some cases, when they put their proposal forward and said they wanted X number of dollars, we tried to even give the schools more money if they wanted. Like when they worked with
Yeah.
either Demco or WB or started
Which is
shopping, they came up
fantastic.
higher. And so we were able to shift funding around to support. Again, it's about, from the get-go, and I think this is important to highlight, from the get-go, this was a schools team coming together under the leadership of the principal, designing the space that they thought worked best for their school.
Yep.
And I promised them, and this is why I think this is important for me to reiterate for everybody, my commitment to them was to honor their design team. Too often in this district, in the way past, maybe somebody wanted A and we gave them B because it was cheaper, or somebody wanted C and we said, no, we prefer. This was truly a case where they wanted A and we gave them A, sometimes A plus. And so we've maintained that throughout the last number of months, and I think that's important for folks to understand that we've
Yeah.
spent a lot of work doing that.
And I know they put a lot of work into it, too. They had to put those proposals together, and it wasn't an easy task.
Absolutely.
They did the hard work. So, that being said, I just want to make sure we get as closely to what they asked for.
Yes.
And within the budget they were looking at, because they could get a lot more if they went through Demco with the budget that they were giving. They'd have extra money to get the other pieces that you need to work those STEAM environments.
Yeah, absolutely, and I just want to make sure everybody's aware who's listening or out there is that I'm sitting here under the impression that schools are getting exactly what they were asking for, and if that's not the case, then they need to reach out to me ASAP, because I wouldn't be here asking for something they didn't want.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you're open to that, and I appreciate it 100%. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Taylor, maybe this is Dr. Cecil. Have we spent the entire grant yet, or because that has to be spent quickly, right?
Correct. The date's
June.
June 30th that we have to have spent everything by. So what we've done is we've worked on some spaces require some construction work to be done. So we've been working on that in concert with these approvals for technology last month, furniture this month, And we have this master spreadsheet that we keep working towards the grant while leaving a little bit in there for contingency, just in case
Yes.
something comes in over.
Yes.
So we're managing that, and then as we get closer and closer to June 30th, it's my goal to have spent $1 under the entire grant to make sure we've squeezed as much out of that as possible.
Just, I think that it's all written out already, and it'd be easy for them to just put it, you know.
Ms. Hazelwood,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you're taking my time.
I'm sorry, Mr.
That's okay.
Chair.
Thank you. So my other question is, you said this was a collaborative process at the school level that ultimately was with the principal and I'm assuming staff? All right, is it possible that could, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and I think that's great to highlight. So when we put out this RFP to the schools, they worked with their school teams. And one piece that we also made sure to include in there is that the folks from central administration were involved in this process. So that's where you saw Mr. Oliver and his team go out and work with people, Mr. Gothberg and his team go out and work with people, Dr. Schultz, same thing, to make sure that their ideas were fully supported and they understood how to build what they wanted.
Right, but where I'm going with this is it was a collaborative effort, right? So presumably with staff at the school and the principal and everything else. And it is possible, if you have a group of people, that there could be disagreement as to what is the best product. And when you have those situations, one person has to be the decision maker. So I'm assuming it's the principal. I'm assuming. So my point is simply this, is if there were 6 people involved putting something together, I could think that Demco was the best product to have. Mr. Hennius could think that WB is the best product to have. But at the end of the day, if we can't agree, someone's going to make that call, right?
Yeah.
And if the call is WB and I'm Demco or vice versa, I may not be too happy with it. But it is what it is. The important thing is that it is a collaborative process. And in all collaborative processes, consent is not always unanimous. That's the only point, and it's a possibility. I'm not saying that's happened, but I'm just saying that's a possibility, right?
Correct.
Anything's possible, but
Yep.
not very probable at this.
Okay. All right, so, any other comment from the committee? Hearing none, call a vote for W. Mason for the Innovative Spaces Grant.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next
Thank you.
item, Mr. Oliver, discussion action, contract award, Columbus door, replacement of doors for Park Elementary School.
Good evening. I'm requesting your approval on this contract. These doors are in need of replacement. It's a non-budgeted item. Mr. Gothberg is trying to help us fund this through bond money with repairs at those buildings for building envelope replacement that is in the future. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, but before we go on, would anyone object if we took 19 and 20 at the same time, since they're both doors?
No objection.
Okay. And so the first one is Park for $7,450. The second one is Lippet, right?
Correct.
$9,950. So looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second. Just quick question, Mr. Oliver. Why do we have to replace the doors? And it's a leading question. Were these? Let me just cut to it. So were these doors? Did they need to be replaced because they weren't chocked properly? Like maybe with a wooden wedge or something like that?
So with these doors, they're not operating properly. Our local fire marshal has identified them as being an issue. We're moving forward to correct the issues across the district at every building. And these are 2 of the ones that have been identified, and we are moving forward with
All right, and I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a question of door stops. And
No, it was not.
I want to resurrect that a
No,
little
no,
bit. Okay.
no.
All right, so, any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve, I'm going to ask for a new motion for approval of items 19 and 20.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, number 21, contract award, Discovery Enterprises, Social Studies, Dr. Schultz.
Hello, good evening. This is just an outstanding balance for something that we use currently in the district. This is a budgeted expense, and so we just need to pay the invoice, but it's a really useful tool that we use in the upper elementary grades and also at the middle school to help supplement the social studies curriculum.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, Dr. Schultz, you again, contract award Wilson Language Training Corp. Additional supplies for ELA reading program.
Yes, this is a very important and budgeted expense. We've been creating large orders for teachers in order to fulfill their needs for foundations materials. That's our phonics program for grades K through 2. As you saw earlier when I showed the slides, we have a lot of gains in our ELA performance, and I think that foundations is one of the reasons why. And so I'm respectfully asking for you to approve this so we can get those materials in the teachers' hands as soon as possible.
Move approval?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, Dr. Schultz, you again. Discussion action, curriculum approvals, business, middle school music, science, social studies, tech ed at the high schools, and visual arts.
Yes, thank you. So this is something that I'm really passionate and excited about, and tonight, this is the largest curricular revision that I've come in front of you with. 21 different courses have been mapped out. That's a huge lift. Our teachers have been working so hard to map out everything into the new curricular template, which has our vision of a graduate embedded within that so that we can get the full NEASC blessing for accreditation. That was one of their recommendations. We had to redo all of the curriculum into this one common template. The teachers have risen to the challenge. They've crushed it. There's 21 up here for you tonight. I invite anyone to look. If we approve them right now, then they'll be up on the website starting tomorrow, and you can see we have about 50 on there right now, 50 different courses that have been mapped out. So I'm just really excited about just requesting your approval on these.
Move approval.
Second?
Any discussion?
Question.
Sure.
Ms. Kirby-Chapin?
So the hot topic. So going through the social studies with the Rhode Island history, it ties the social emotional learning. Can you say out loud what that entails?
Yes, let me just pull it up. I'm trying to find where it says social emotional learning within the document. Can you tell me where you see it?
Vision of a graduate alignment.
I'm sorry for the awkward silence, everybody.
Mr.
All
Kuzma,
right,
any
so, yes, that is something that I would have to look into, to be honest with you. It says students in Rhode Island history will seek to see the world as others see it by listening, networking, and contributing productively while developing social, emotional, and intercultural skills. Classes will work on developing norms for collaborative learning and managing team dynamics. The only thing I can say is that it sounds like it's aligned more with the portion of the vision of our graduate that has to do with collaboration and communication. There are certain elements of the vision. I'm going to pull it up right now. The vision, if I say it out loud for everyone's edification, is continuous learner, empowered citizen, empathetic collaborator, skilled communicator, innovative problem solver, critical thinker, and healthy and balanced learner. So within that, there is a little bit of social emotional learning embedded. I don't think it's something that's explicitly necessarily taught within the curriculum. I think it's just something that's a product of collaboration and communication. But I can certainly ask the teachers for more information about that if you'd like to table this one particular one this evening.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We'll take table.
I would, I read the social studies curriculum, and I thought it was very good. And I don't think that the SEL thing in there is a trigger. I don't, Ms. Kirby-Chapin, I know what your concerns are, I don't think they're founded, because the way you just explained it and how it's gonna be taught, when you look at the rest of the curriculum, I don't see how you can warp it. So I'm inclined to improve it. To approve it, then you could always send us that information. You know, social studies is a thing for me. Social studies and history are probably my things I'm interested most in. And so I looked at that curriculum pretty closely because I know what's going on in the world and everything else, and I didn't see that at all in that curriculum. So.
But it is a concern for a lot of parents, so I just wanted to address it.
Sure.
Okay, so, all right, so then if you want to do that, then if you want to, you can make a motion to, what are we going to do here? We'll make a motion to table the social studies, right? That's what we're going to do,
Can we
right?
just table the Rhode Island history one? Would that be all right for now, and I can?
Is it just the Rhode Island history or
Skip
just
me.
the overall
It's
social
just the Rhode
studies?
Island
Just the
history.
Rhode Island history? Okay, so your motion is to table the Rhode Island history portion of the presentation. Is that what your motion is?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second for that? Second?
Yeah, I'll second
A
it.
second? Okay, any discussion?
I seconded that motion because if my colleague has constituents with concerns on the matter, Ms. Schultz is pretty responsive. She'll get that answer over, and then we'll get this tightened up by the next meeting.
Okay. Any other comments? Ms. Baggis?
Dr. Schultz, if we approve this tonight, can you get us out something in the next week or so to explain how this is all,
Oh, absolutely. I was planning on
vetted, taken care of?
writing an email as soon as I was done speaking, actually.
So that way we could
I
approve
could get it to you by 5 a.m.
We
No,
could
I'm just
approve
joking.
it, and you have done a marvelous job, and I know you're gonna bring that forward to us. And-
Yes, I'll get that to you as soon as I can. I'll reach out to the department heads.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we're calling a vote on the amendment to strip out Rhode Island history. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
On the motion made by
On
Ms.
her,
Chapman.
on her on her, I'm sorry, on Ms. Kirby Chapman's motion to table the Rhode Island history portion of the curriculum.
Aye.
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 Is that what we're doing? Aye.
Nay. Nay.
4-1, motion carries. Okay, now we're gonna take, we're gonna look for a motion to, right, we're looking for a motion on, to approve the remainder of the curriculums.
Move the remainder of the items.
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Schultz, I would just say, have you, with respect to social studies, look into the Keith Stokes 1696 Heritage Project. It's worthwhile reading for Rhode Island history. He worked with the state on Rhode Island history, so it's a very good history, colonial history of Rhode Island, history of the treatment of Narragansetts, the treatment of all different minority communities in the state. It's not, I don't believe it's biased or slanted. It's a really, really good read. It's about 100-something pages, but anyway, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion action, Warwick District Strategic Plan for RIDE. Dr. Cecil.
Yes, good evening again. What you have before you tonight, we're asking for you to approve our revised district strategic plan. So I need to explain it because it is our approved district strategic plan in a new format. To give a little history, because we have new school committee members, our district planning team met from February 2021 to December 2021, so almost like 10 months to develop the original plan that was approved in January last year. And it was a 5-year plan, because typically districts create 5-year plans, and it was approved. We used a very different method for creating the plan that's ever been used, and that was that we did surveys of community members and a very wide variety of people that represent school districts, businesses, colleges and universities, obviously parents, students, teachers, the whole gamut. We had some experts in the field help us develop those surveys, and then from that, they disaggregated the data for us. We then held focus groups with smaller groups based on the results of that survey, and from all of that, we developed the district strategic plan that was approved in January. As a rule, we look at it every year to see if everything is on target, do we need to change anything? In the interim, RIDE came out with a new requirement that all districts use a template that they have created, that not only will districts have to use it for their strategic plan, which must be a 3-year plan, but also schools will also have to use the same template for their school improvement plans, and all of it will have to be uploaded to RIDE. this spring. And so that's why it's so important tonight to go through this, get this approval, so that the schools can then get started on their plans. And so we had the annual review last month in February. We used the feedback to revise the plan, not tremendous, but some revisions. The other thing was that RIDE now requires, where our first priority was overall to look at improving academics, RIDE specifically requires now that if you are below 40% proficient in ELA or math, you are required to have a specific priority with measurable goals for ELA and one for math if you haven't met that threshold. And as a district, we did not meet those thresholds. So we took our original priority and had to make it into two. So what we're presenting tonight is the 5-year plan, basically the content of the 5-year plan, reorganized to fit into the new format that RIDE is requiring. As I said, we have the new measurable goals in ELA and math. And what we did was the new plan asked for action steps. What we did was to take our indicators and make those action steps. So it was just taking apart the plan and reorganizing it to fit into this template, which people know I'm not really happy with. It's just very cumbersome. So now the plan is more detailed with timelines, ownership, financial implications. And then I put on, just want to point out what our priority areas are. Improve ELA proficiency, ensure that all ELA instruction is challenging, engaging, relevant, and meets the needs of all students. We will work to improve ELA using multiple strategies, ensure all math instruction is challenging, engaging, relevant, and meets the needs of all students, and we're going to work to improve math using multiple strategies, improve the learning culture in all school buildings, create an inclusive, culturally responsive learning environment. That was our original priority. Improve communication between and among community members, and our original priority was strengthen family engagement, community investment, and open communication. And then last priority areas, assess safety and security with our header, create and maintain safe and secure facilities. So now we have measurable goals, and our measurable goals are that the percent of students meeting or exceeding expectations on ELA on state assessments will increase from 29% to 57% in 3 years. This is now a 3-year plan, so that's the goal that we have set. And the percent of students meeting or exceeding expectations on math will increase from 22% to 59% over the 3 years. The gap between students with IEPs and students without IEPs will decrease by 10% in both ELA and math. The percent of parents responding favorably to family school communication, and that's on SurveyWorks, will increase from 31% to 60%, and the percent of conduct office referrals will decrease by 20%. So those are all the SMART goals that fit in with our priority areas. The initiatives to support the goals, again, those are our original indicators. So there's too many to name, but just to give an example, implement student discourse in all classrooms, implement instructional strategies and an aligned curriculum that promotes high expectation and engagement in all classrooms, develop and create an inclusive, culturally responsive learning environment, strengthen family engagement, community investment, and open communication, and create and maintain safe and secure facilities. The next part of the template goes into action steps. So once again, we took those action steps, which were those indicators of success, and they're too numerous to show, to read to you, but they're all in the original plan, and they're now in this new template, which you have a copy of. Progress monitoring is part of the plan, and in our original plan, instead of writing SMART goals, we had a growth model where we took indicators, different indicators, to look at growth over time. So for academics, for example, we used different metrics to measure that. We were going to use RICAS, we were going to use iReady, we were going to use STAR, SAT, PSAT. So rather than throw that out the window, that's now going to become our progress monitoring for RIDE. We will continue to update that chart every year, but that's what we are submitting as our progress monitoring. So our next steps, we need you to approve the plan tonight. Then we can meet with all the schools and show them what they need to do so they can begin to work and revise their plans. And as I said before, that we have to submit these plans this spring to RIDE. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion for Dr. Cecil?
Just
Mr.
one,
Gallagher?
just one comment. I want to say thank you very much to the administration for getting this out to us in, significant advance. We had, I think, about 2, maybe 3 weeks to review this document, which allowed us to go through 40-something pages and reach out to members of the administration to get clarity. So appreciate that.
Yes.
Same thing with the curriculum, thank you.
Yes.
And just to mention, that plan went from 20 pages to close to 50, the same plan, just reorganized into their template. Just have to put that out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Testa.
Ms. Backus?
Dr. Cecil, I was in your office for a little bit when you started on this, and you were a little bit reticent about it, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nothing else?
Well,
Ms.
just
Brewer
a
Chapman?
quick question.
Yeah.
Just, so I know that this has to be submitted to RIDE, but just what does RIDE do with like the develop and utilize the SEL data dashboard to support decision-making around social and emotional needs? What does RIDE do with that?
RIDE is just going to take our plan and read it, and I don't know if they're even going to provide us feedback or not. They are just requiring us to submit them. It's going to be our responsibility to take this plan and continue to work on enacting it and working on taking, making sure that we're doing what we're said in this plan, that we're doing that.
And then the district-wide statistic, I think this is great, the 20 to 1 and 18 average class size. Is that, how plausible is that? Like, is this possible?
That's
In a
what-
positive way, not critiquing, like, is it, I mean, is
That's
this
our
possible?
data, that's
Right.
actual data.
Okay.
That when you look at the average class size, that
Average.
compared to the number of staff that we have, that's what, it's a 20 to 1 ratio.
Because I just know in elementary schools, some elementary schools are just struggling with like 24 to 26 students. So that's why it was just,
Yeah, no,
I was
it's
like, this
it's
is
an
great, this
average.
can happen.
It's an average across the district.
That means it takes into consideration that there are some classes that have 8 kids in it. And then on the high end, maybe 26 kids. You pull your average.
So it's not possible to get.
So the mode in this case might be more helpful than the mean.
But that's, you're reporting it as it is. That's the average.
Any other questions from the committee? Dr. Cecil, I just have one quick one. Or maybe it's for Mrs. Cusino, too. So the SEL data that's referred to in these documents, we did a presentation a couple of meetings ago about what we do for SEL data, right? What we're measuring, right? When we did the panorama presentation, that's the information we're putting here. It's not as if we did a presentation on panorama and the stuff we're asking, right? And then we're going to pull stuff over here and put this in the document. It's the stuff that we've already publicly stated that we're doing. It just rolled into the plan. So, and we're using all the measurements and metrics that you displayed in your presentation, Dr. Schultz, right? All that's being incorporated into the plan to
Right,
to
the
show
presentation that we had with Mrs. Murray, our SEL coordinator, a month or so back, that is definitely some of the data that we use to support this as well. But know that all of our SEL surveys, and including survey works, they are all opt-out optional.
Right.
So if parents do notify us, even with the survey works, that they don't, the students don't take it, and, obviously the parents don't complete it.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? If not, call a vote for district plan for RIDE.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last item on the agenda, discussion action. Recommended 23-24 Warwick School Calendar. Ms. Danbrook.
Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, I present to you a draft of the 2023-2024 Warwick School District Calendar. RIDE does send all LEAs a sample calendar that they would like us to follow as much as we can for consistency across the state. So what I did, I gave every one of you a hard copy because I did update it a little bit, adding the last day of school, the last day for grade 12, and also a key to show you the designation, what the colors mean on each day, the designation of those colors. Also, 180 days is required for all students. And I was talking to Attorney Hennius earlier, and we did receive that on our school calendar notes. So I know some people have approached me about, in the past, we let the 9th graders go in a day early and the 6th graders go in a day early, but then that would be 179 days for those students, and they'd have a different finish day. So I'm working with Assistant Superintendent McCaffrey for different orientations and different supports during the first day. For instance, having seniors help the freshmen get leave class 5 minutes early to help direct them to their next class, and just thinking out of the box to support those students. A couple of parents reached out to me about Veterans Day. Veterans Day on the RIDE calendar is November 13th, where the state is celebrating, and other agencies are celebrating on November 10th. So they did ask me to find out more information. Usually when a holiday is on a Saturday, which Veterans Day is, it's celebrated on the Friday. When the holiday falls on a Sunday, it's celebrated on the Monday. So why RIDE chose the Monday, I'm just going to get feedback from RIDE on that. So we have the last day of school for seniors on the 5th, graduation on the 6th. The 17th is the last day for all other students. Dr. Schultz did request 3 personal days. Three professional, you probably want 3 personal days too. 3 professional development days because of the Right to Read Act. So we have so much time to train all of our teachers in the Right to Read Act, and she felt that we need the 3 professional days to accomplish that. Also, in this calendar, LEAs do have some options, and one of the options that we kept in this calendar that we had in last calendar is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving off. I think that was very popular with teachers and students and families. So at this point, I will entertain any questions.
Okay, you want to make a motion to approve the
Move
calendar?
approval.
Okay.
Second.
And discussion? Any discussion? Okay,
Just, I'd like to say
Ms.
that
Backus?
this calendar can be updated or amended at any time during the year so that folks know if there are issues, we can make those changes at any time during the year.
And that November 13th day is subject to be amended. Once the superintendent talked to me about it already. Thank you so much for, filling us in, because she is trying to get it to align with the state. And I appreciated her making that effort.
Thank you. I would just go on record as saying I was the one several years ago who proposed eliminating February vacation. I'm not a fan of February vacation.
Yeah.
I don't know why we
A lot
have
of
one.
parents aren't.
And I don't know why the state just doesn't move the April one up earlier. And to me, I guess it must be rocket science, but I am wise enough to know I won't propose it again, because parents still went away on vacation anyway, and absenteeism was high that week. Again, I think it's a unnecessary vacation, but
That's true.
I guess we're saddled with it. Okay.
But they take
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor of the calendar as submitted?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, I think. Okay, at this point, this would be the second public comment. Same rules as apply to this one as apply to the first one. 30 minutes. Please try to keep your comments to 2 minutes as possible. I do time. I don't want to have to cut anybody off. I really don't. But if we can kind of say what you got to say in a couple of minutes, it would be appreciated. So, anybody for public comment? Would you please state your name.
Thanks. My name is Cindy Wilson. So I've never been to a school committee meeting. I don't have a dog in the race. I don't have a child in a school in Warwick, but I listen to talk radio every day, and I don't know if you know, every day, all day, every DJ talks about Warwick. They talk about how our mayor is incompetent, how he hides from the press, all his fake book moments, his personal history financially. And they talk about the inept city council, where the vice president's job is to only shut down the citizens and not allow us to speak. And now there's this. And this is for Ms. Backus. If you cared about this city and about the children like you say you do, you would resign, and you would do it now. Driving while intoxicated was a danger to everyone, not just you. Assaulting a police officer was showing no respect and indicative is the kind of person you are. You should show respect for this city and resign immediately, because this is all over the radio, all day, every day, all of your names. And the fact that you guys hands are tied and you can't do anything is amazing to me. Can somebody commit murder and still sit here? It's amazing. And I really believe that you should resign. You made a mistake, resign. That's the second part of it. Show the kids and the people of Warwick that you really do care, that you care about us, not just keeping your position. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school committee, admin. I came to the mic tonight just to follow up with the comment.
Ms. Pinto, can you state your name?
I'm sorry, Pauline Pinto, grade 6 science teacher, Warwick Veterans Middle School. I just wanted to come up and discuss the importance of that first day for transition students, grade 6, grade 9. As a grade 6 teacher, I just ran down to my classroom and grabbed our schedule from the first day of school. It's revised so that as the students come in, we can get them acclimated to the building, to their schedules. They're really like 5th graders on the first day still. Homeroom for the first couple of days of school this year was extended. It was 44 minutes long. On the first day, there were no less than 4 teachers in my classroom to assist students with lockers, handing out materials that are necessary for them, going over schedules, reviewing maps. For some of them, it's their first time in this gigantic building. Not all of them attend the orientation. I realize that for some reason, RIDE has now decided that it changes the number of days of school for students across the board, but we need to do something to support those kids. They really do need the time. Even with 4 adults in my classroom assisting, showing visual aids like videos on how to open a combination lock and things of that nature, there are tears. There are real tears, not just from the teachers, but from the kids as well. So please just consider, maybe be creative, find a way to make it work. They need the help, they really do. Thank you, appreciate it.
I was just going to comment again. I'm surprised. For as long as I've been in this district, and I was a child in this district too, and it used to be grades 7 and 8, obviously in junior high. Winman was 7, 8, 9, but grade 7 would go by itself. Grade 10 would go by itself at Tollgate, grade 9 at Vets and Pilgrim. And I forgot to mention earlier, the preschool always doesn't start on that first day either. They have a staggered start. And I don't know what changed this year with RIDE, but RIDE is always up to something. We can't really trust them. Unfunded mandates and so on. You asked what we're going to do with the district strategic plan. RIDE is going to put it on a shelf. I mean, that's what RIDE is going to do with it. But if there's any way that we can have those kids go by themselves, because Pauline's right, not every child goes to orientation. And even when they go to orientation, actually being in the building for a regular school day is very different than having an evening tour of the building with their parents there and, with ice cream socials and things like that. Earlier tonight, one of our art teachers from Winman spoke about the necessity for the kiln. It isn't fair that Winman does not have a kiln, obviously. The Winman students then are missing out on ceramics, which is part of the curriculum. So whatever needs to be done to get a kiln over there, we had this problem at Tollgate a few years ago. There was the flood right before the pandemic, and something happened with the kiln then, and it took months and months and months, I think, into almost the next school year before they got the kiln. Our programs suffer without having the proper materials. Earlier tonight, you approved a new special ed teacher, which, thank you. We need more. The previous special ed director made a huge, I can't stress how huge, a mistake by reducing the number of special ed teachers in the elementary school, by making resource teachers share schools. Now, in some cases, it has worked out. The numbers are small enough. But there are 4 schools right now in which the numbers are very, very large, and the teachers cannot keep up. And it really isn't fair to the kids or to the teachers or to the program or to whatever. So we need more special ed teachers in the elementary level right now. And as far as, thanks, we do. And as far as administration positions, I'm always one for wanting to, cut. I was a huge critic of a previous superintendent when he created whimsical positions like CAO and whatnot, and then gave that, person way too much money. But the business department needs to function properly. And before Mr. McGrath became the finance director, he was the controller. And he stepped into the position when the previous finance director left very suddenly. And we have been operating without a controller. And here, you will rarely hear me advocate for administration positions, and you know it. But if anything, if we're going to function, if we're going to get our bills paid and our materials and everything else, we need to have the proper staffing in that finance department. Thank you.
Good evening, Jeremy Langell. My daughter's at Warwick Neck. I wanted to thank all of you for your work, especially Patty and Danny, right? And Principal Galligan, who did a fantastic safety presentation at Warwick Neck for parents. It was really good. I sent an email again thanking you all, so those on the record. They handled that with care, and there's a lot of anxiety in the room when we talk about those kinds of issues. So I hope that other school communities will have higher involvement. I also just wanted to say, I hope that, I'm surprised that we pulled the social studies out of that curriculum revision. I read through them as well. I didn't see any issue there. I think that there's a lot of rhetoric in social media regarding social emotional learning. We have decades of academic research that talks about its value, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. We know that students do not come to school just to do academics. They come to school and they bring their entire self with them, everything at home, everything that's going on in their life, and that is really what we're talking about. So I'll be really frank in that I don't really understand from an academic, from that perspective, what the issue is. I'll also say that I know our teachers worked on that curriculum, and I respect frankly, the experience and the expertise of our teachers. I respect the expertise of our staff, our administrators, and I know that there's attention. I'm not a politician, so I don't have those concerns, but parents think lots of things. I'm a parent. That does not mean I know anything more about a whole becoming a parent doesn't mean anything other than the fact that I became a parent. And in fact, every day I think I know less about it. So my point is this: I think when we take into consideration all those things, those were great standards. I frankly don't see any need to revise anything in the social studies curriculum. That's my own take on it. I only speak for myself. But I think it's important that we don't fall prey to rhetoric, or we don't fall prey to bad critical thinking. So anyways, those are my comments for the night. Thank you for all of your work. Have a good night.
Good evening. My name is Frank Galligan, and I'm the principal of Warwick Neck Elementary School. I'd like to first start by thanking Mr. Langell for his comments about SEL and social emotional learning. I can tell you that as the lead administrator in an elementary school with nearly 300 children, the behavioral concerns and challenges that a lot of these children are going through after coming in from recess each day, it's overwhelming sometimes. And I can tell you that our children are struggling with interpersonal relationships, self-regulation, all of the things that are involved in social emotional learning. And so our teachers, based upon their own observations and the surveys that our children completed last fall and will once again be completing again in the coming weeks, they tailor their morning meetings as a group to discuss issues of note relating to what they're seeing and what our children are struggling with. I can also tell you that when it comes to small groups with our social worker, things that we're noticing small groups of children, particularly friends, struggling with on a daily basis, our social worker will work with them on a lot of the social emotional competencies. I do have to go on the record by saying that, as a school that gave the opt-out option, all of our schools gave the opt-out option back in the fall for this survey. I had, out of the 300 or so families in our school, only 9 reached out to us to opt out. And what was most concerning to me is not that parents were opting out. That's certainly their right as a parent. Not one of those 9 families asked me to see the survey. I know there's a lot of information floating around on social media, as Mr. Langell had said, but it's concerning to me that I feel as though people are falling prey or victim to the information that's out there without at least seeking it for themselves right from the source and saying, can I at least see that survey that my child will be taking? I will be very happy to provide it to them. In fact, today in my parent newsletter to the community, I just went and provided it right in the newsletter so people can see exactly what their children are taking, because I really believe that strongly in it. Kids today are not the same as they were 20 years ago. They've lived through a pandemic. We're trying to come out of it now. And I have to tell you that our kids need us right now to not only support their academics, and for anyone to say that social emotional learning does not impact academics, I can tell you it does. And as someone that has to deal once again with the issues that come in after recess and it overflows into the classroom, it is certainly something that we need to take into consideration. So thank you for your time, and thank you again for your support of SEL.
Larry Dorr, Warwick, Rhode Island. I thought about getting up. I'm a former teacher, went to school here. 37 years, Milton, Mass, Teacher of the Year, 2008. And I don't know if you're familiar with yoga, but at the end of yoga, you lay down and you do Shavasana. And when you do Shavasana, you ask yourself, was I the best person I could be today? And then that's what made me get up off the couch and come here tonight. Imagine being a public servant for children, the ones who grew up with parents and families who carry out the most difficult job of all, to raise a consciousness in their children. 60 years we've been talking to kids about what we do on prom night. 60 years. That's all I gotta say.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Future meetings, Achievement Subcommittee meeting, March 21st, 2023 at 2:30. Policy Subcommittee meeting, March 20th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Warwick School Building Committee, April 5th at 7:30 a.m. Next monthly school committee is April 18th at 7 p.m. Weather permitting? No, just kidding. Health and Wellness Committee meeting, March 23rd, 2023 at 3 p.m. There being no other business before this committee, we'll look for a motion to approve. Motion to dismiss, to adjourn.
Second. Second. The mics don't even work.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.